All right. Day number 3 of 3 days of training. Dominate today. I am Victor Vanico Johnson of Nico Don Projects. Got my co-host over here, Mr. Brandon Powell of Lean On Him Consulting. Man, what's it been like for you these last couple of days, Brandon? Give me your feedback. What you think of this, man?
Man, I have been I've been excited and grateful. This is the kind of stuff that we can, I'm sure you feel the same way. We can roll out of bed at 2 a.m. and cover stuff like this. This is something we live for. And I hope that passion, that enthusiasm has come forward. My ultimate goal is to be edifying, to make an impact. I don't want to just make us feel good, but I want us to actually get information that can be useful. That has always been my goal in whatever I do. And I want to give a special shout out to those that did reach out, send logos. You put ego aside. You allowed me to pull out the belt. I didn't pull out the big belt. I didn't do the switch, but you were able to allow yourself to be open, because this is stuff that can impact our lives over the next 3 years. And I'm just grateful.
Mhm. Well, no, I feel the same way. It's so funny with these type of events. You come into it planning to give to people and share and give a service, and you end up getting just as much, if not more, back from the people, or from, even listening to you, things that we've talked about ad nauseum, and I still feel like I'm gaining a lot of wisdom from you. So thank you so much for that. So again, we don't want to waste a lot of time. One of the things I do want to do today is from the survey, we did have a few direct questions. So there'll be a time here later on that we'll start diving into a few of those questions. But without further ado, Mr. Powell, you want to go ahead and get us started today?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We bypassing the slides. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into it.
Well, I'll do a quick run through of the slide, but I think this is everybody in here been with us these last 3 days, so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can jump
yeah,
into it, man. Let's go on right on
yeah,
in.
yeah. Y'all already seen them slides. Y'all done already seen the cat, the dog, and all the mouse and all that stuff. So, let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, I am grateful for those that have been attentive to this point. I am going to go ahead and grab my whiteboard, and let's jump right into it. Um, Tonight, what I want to do is cover a principle, what I call um, business strategy, dealing with there's a chart that I created in my business coaching program where I studied the different type of professional personalities that are in the marketplace. And one of those that I found is most common that I run across is what I call uh, the helper. And the helper typically, we need helpers in the marketplace. They do a lot. They help us out. They do a lot of things for us. And I'm just getting my whiteboard adjusted just to make sure we're good to go. All right. All right. Good. Good. All right. So I'm trying to be fancy, y'all, and use my little stylus, but it's not acting right. So I'm having to be bougie and use my regular finger. How dare I, right? All right. So the helper is what I want to talk about, and then that trait that we deal with from time to time. You'll see three things that typically happen. There is a uh, desire to serve. There we go. All right. I'm using my stylus. Desire to serve. And these are three traits that typically show up in the marketplace. Now, what does that mean? Desire to serve. A lot of us that are entrepreneurs, whether you've been in business for, you know, 15 years, 1 year, or you're in that planning stage, the incubator stage, typically we start off as a helper. We just want to help people. That's the purest place to come from. Now, it's not automatic that everybody that goes into business has that motive. Some people say, look, I've identified a need and I just want to fill it. I want to make money. Nothing really emotionally connected to it. They just want to make money, and that's okay. But a lot of us, um, we have our heart connected to it. It's inspirational to us. It really means something to us. So it starts from there, a desire to serve. From there, it transitions into something else. Eventually, because you are serving people, you're helping people out. People take notice. Just as an example, if you were the person that, um, I'm gonna just use the example of my personal trainer today. That's part of the reason why I'm behind, because I was moving slow because I was sore. Um, you always giving out fitness and nutritional advice, and before you know it, your friends, family, and associates, they realize, man, this guy, this lady, they know what they're talking about, because you just have a desire to serve. You want to help as many as people as you can, and freely if they ask, freely you give. Nothing wrong with that. But as a result, more and more people start asking, and over time, it then transitions to what you call proof of concept. And that should be an E. All right. Proof of concept. Now, what does that mean? Just breaking it down. Proof. That's what it sounds like. Proof. Having proof of something. Concept. In this case, the concept is your ability to teach and do some kind of personal training of some sort, if that's the case. Over time, you go from just having a desire to help people to the point where you actually know you're helping people. It gets to the point where when people contact you or reach out or ask for your advice, you pretty much understand within a very short period of time what the solution is and how to get them on the right path. That's when you get really proficient at it. You become a specialist. But here's what's not happening. You're not getting paid for it. I forgot to include that part. That's the unfortunate part, is that you started with this pure desire to serve, and the proof of concept was being developed. Now, this is normal. Most of us, I'm sure, on this call know people like this. You've been like this, where we all have that humble stage where we start off, we don't know what to charge or if we should charge, and therefore we just say, you know what, I want to build some confidence up, and it feels amazing, because here you are giving advice to somebody, they go off and use it, and it works, and you do that again and it works, and before you know it, 10, 15, 20 times. That's an amazing feeling. You can really live off of that euphoric feeling for quite some time, until reality sets in, when you say, you know what, I can't pay no bills off of these smiles and these pats on the back. And here's what ends up happening. As a result, you you miss out on what I call a fair exchange. Now, why did I use that phrase? Because oftentimes this is just more of a more tasteful way of saying, hey, I'm not getting paid. Because there's a stigma for some people to say, you know what, I don't want to, it's not about the money for me. Well, no, 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 that's not what this is about. This is about a fair exchange. Because here's the thing, if you give value to someone up here and they reciprocate down there, that's not a fair exchange. And what happens is we're not really built. Um, our psyche is not built to do that for an extended period of time. Eventually, there's going to be some imbalance in how you feel about that. Um, now, let me just pause here and ask a quick question. Has anyone been through one of these two phases in business? If anyone wants to, feel free to chime in or add to the thought.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, all right,
Totally.
Yes, I have.
Yes. Yep. See it
all
there.
right. So as you dealt with that phase, um, what did it feel like? I mean, were you just, did you stay excited forever, or what did something
No,
happen?
absolutely not for me. So I mean, in this, what happens is, just like you said, you start to feel a certain kind of way, like you feel like you're a sponge and people just squeezing you, because now it's not just what you volunteer out. Now people are coming to you as that subject matter expert, but they want to try to, keep asking you more and more questions until they got what they needed. And next thing you know, they moved on and have succeeded in those results. And like you said, you look back, it's like, oh, dog, I don't have an invoice. Which
Right.
and when do you change it? Because as soon as you put the for sale sign up, now you look like the idiot that's, oh, well, hold up, man. You just gave me this free information last week. So yeah, that it's tough to do that, but you do have to do that at some point and know your value and just cut it off.
Absolutely.
I've personally learned when it comes to me doing that, especially since I'm so passionate about credit, organically, if you follow my page or if you're my friend, you're going to get the knowledge, right? Because I'm dropping tips, tools, advice, periodically. So you're going to get the knowledge. But when you are my friend and it transitioned into my business, you get one free consultation. I have now made it a rule that when someone comes into my space, they are sent my Calendly link. I don't even care if you're already a client of mine for something else, because thankfully I've been blessed with many talents. But like if I do your hair and we transition into credit conversation, oh, I give you my Calendly. You can make that one free consultation. And then thereafter, I'm sending it to you and I'm saying, hey, you need to book a fee. It's going to be $50 if you want my time. This is what has to happen, because the reality of the situation is you can wait and you can get the material off my page, or you can pick my brain and pay me these coins, because at the end of the day, what I've learned and the amount of hours I've put into it has cost me, whether it's time away from my family or it's literal dollars. And I need to make sure that I'm not, my aunt calls it prostituting your gifts and prostituting your talents. I want to be very clear, because God is not going to keep blessing you if you're not requiring something back of the talents that you're putting out.
Right. Yeah, that's very powerful. And I'm seeing in the comments here, a lot of us can relate to that. They definitely can relate to that. A fair exchange is what is needed. A fair exchange. And I'm gonna be a little dramatic here, but it's just for humor's sake. But you'll get the point. Is that you bend over backwards, giving advice. I'm sticking to the nutritional example, and before you know it, people are constantly contacting you, and you get done helping them, and they say, "Man, I surely appreciate you." Now, you may have given them advice that was worth $5,000 just in totality and value, and they say, "Man, you know what? Next time you're in town, I'm gonna buy you lunch." Now, don't try to supersize it. I'm gonna get you something on the value menu. And what they're doing, what the market is doing, is they're trying to exchange something, but they're not trying to. There will never come a point where you're giving and giving and giving to the market, and they say, "You know what? On this call, don't give me no more advice until I pay you." When is that gonna ever happen? Never. They'll keep giving you ham sandwiches and value menu burgers, and pats on the back and hugs. Well, I got news for you. I don't want no more hugs. I don't want no more handshakes. I don't want no more sandwiches. I can buy my own sandwich. I need a fair exchange. Why am I covering this? Because it's very hard to dominate today if you allow the market to continue to sap your energy. Because I'm gonna tell you this, here's what ends up happening. There's a couple of things that ends up happening when you don't create that fair exchange. A few things start settling in at this stage, proof of concept. You're becoming very good, but a couple of things are happening that are starting to settle in. Uh, resentment, resentment settles in, apathy, and frustration. Those three things start settling in. Resentment. What that looks like is you get the phone call in, and it's your uncle again. You looking on the call ID, and it's gotten so bad to where when you look on the call ID, you know why they calling. Hey, what's going on, nephew? How's it going? Oh, okay. It's going good. It's going good. So, I just want to see, hey, you watch that game? Did you see how that went? And you know, they're just doing preliminary talking points because they really want to get, you know how people get, they get slick. They realize they only call you when they need something. So what they do is they get a little slick with it. So, let me, let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about sports. How the kids doing? And then they say, I was thinking. Yeah, I know you was thinking. That's why you called me. And what happens is you begin to feel a sense of resentment because whether you realize it or not, you want a fair exchange for what you're doing. Then what happens is frustration settles in. Now you don't want to take those calls. Now you're beginning to question why you're doing this, and then you don't have time for yourself. You can't balance things. It's not really healthy. Then, to make matters worse, apathy settles in. Now, apathy is a little bit different because you may be burnt out, frustrated, and resentful. But what ends up adding to that, add worse to it, is that you get on that same call and you end up only giving 50% of who you are to them. And they get on that call and they're used to getting 100%. And so what they'll do is they'll have the audacity. Say, man, I appreciate that advice, but normally you give me a little bit more than it. You got anything else? No, I don't have nothing else. I don't have nothing else. Now you do, but the apathy is starting to settle in. And what ends up happening is it cheapens your creative mastery and your ability because you don't really have it to give. You have it to give, but you're tired. Apathy begins to settle in. So as a result, and I'm gonna tell you, a lot of clients deal with this. Is it fair? No, absolutely not. But that's why we cover this kind of stuff to show how to transition from that, how to get past that. How do you do it? Well, one of the things that I recommend is transitioning from these three things, from those feelings, to the third element. If you're trying to pivot, you got to go to this third level. And I've got news for you. You could be doing business for 30 years and stay stuck at this stage. Why is that? Because here's the thing, the market will never stop you from giving more than they deserve. They'll say, keep it coming. What, you gonna give me this good advice? They go off and make $1 million off of it, and you got a car full of ham sandwiches and pats on the back and hugs and kisses. I can hug myself. I can kiss my own self. So eventually you run out and you get burnt out, and it doesn't happen unless you pivot. So how do you pivot? Here's what I recommend. You translate that into and it's already been pointed out by Raquel, turn it into a billable service. You got to transition into a billable service. So let's say you've been doing that for like 2 years and you haven't really quite figured out why you're frustrated or if you're going to be able to figure this thing out. How do you pivot this into a billable service? Well, you for one, it challenges you to figure out, okay, who am I? What do I offer? And what should I be charging? That's usually the problem. You don't know what you should be charging. And so you come to a definitive point, say, look, I think I want to charge this. And if we're working together, we help find that out. And once we determine what that is, you say, man, hold up. You mean to tell me I could have been charging $75 an hour for this? And what happens is excitement comes. Whoa, man, I ain't gonna. Okay, I'm gonna be all right now. Then frustration settles in. You say, hold up. I got all these people that owe me. I got news for you. You can't send backdoor invoices to folk that you didn't gave free advice. That's not how it works.
Retroactive something.
Yeah, you can't retroactively. Yeah, you say, oh, you can't come to the house no more until you pay me $3,007. No, that's not how it works. But here's how you pivot. Uncle calls again. You say, hey, hey, how's it going? Yeah. You know what? I got you covered, man. I love trying to help out. I'm glad to hear it's working for you. Tell you what I'm gonna do, Unc. Let's go ahead and cover this. I'm gonna give you what I think is gonna be helpful. I started working with a new company. I've been working on my brand and stuff. We putting together some stuff, and I'm figuring out how I can start charging for these things. I'm gonna take care of you now for this one, but going forward, it's gonna be $75 an hour. What's gonna happen is it's gonna be a shock to the system, but that's the best way to pull that Band-Aid off. What you don't do is abruptly say, "Hey, Unc, you calling me? I'm not giving you no more advice until you pay me." To pivot, you softly do that with existing clients, existing people that have been doing that, and you say, "Okay, I'll take care of you this time." And going forward, two things gonna happen: he's gonna call you less, or he's gonna call you regular and pay you. More than likely, he's gonna probably call less because they've been so accustomed to, getting it their way. And that's usually how it goes. But at least for you going forward in the marketplace, you will now give yourself a better chance to create a fair exchange. Does that make sense? Any questions on that part?
That's great stuff. I had one suggestion too for, because I started doing this about 6 months ago. I can't remember if me and you talked about this, Brandon, or not, but one thing I've done for even those free consultations, if I've agreed to do that consultation, I still will send somebody an invoice and let them know, hey, this is what I normally charge. You'll see the discount code on there where it was waived. So if it was, in your example, $75 for an hour consultation, I'm still sending the invoice, but it'll have a zero balance on it for this time. And that way, at least they know, oh, okay, this guy about business. And it's a great
Right.
way for you to establish that expectation for people. And so now when your Uncle Herman, who want to start talking sports and all this craziness, now the next person that he said, yeah, my nephew told me this. Oh man, you think I could call him? Yeah, but he gonna charge you, bro. So it kind of spreads out and lets people know that you are a business and not just a side hustle.
Absolutely.
And not only that, it shows your value, because I think, like when I was with you, Vic, and I saw it, I was like, okay, I see what that's about. And it made me be more aware when I had my clients to put what my value is on there, so that yes, you're getting me at a discount, or you're getting me at a promotional rate, quote unquote, but you're still getting the insight and the knowledge that I would have given to anyone else if they would have paid full price.
Absolutely. Man, y'all are getting me excited. I'm about to pass this on to Victor, but I'm gonna tell you two concepts that maybe if any of us we end up talking offline, or we do like a laser session, I'm gonna make an earmark these two notes, because most times when I bring up concepts like this, there really literally is like 5 other concepts connected to it. But I'm gonna give you these two just to earmark so we can cover them later if we end up spending some more time. Um, and of course, ask any additional questions if you have any on this, what we covered. So one concept that Vic kind of implied that I've covered is what's called, that should be an H, the unknown discount is not a discount. Okay, that's the first one. That's something that I cover. Is essential, connected to what we just covered. The other one is another principle called, can you offer double? Now I don't have time to dig too deep into these, but I can guarantee you, if we do spend time, I'd love to go over this a little bit further, and maybe I can cover one toward the end if we have time. But these are two that are connected to it. Um, you know, I would just say that they're definitely important. But the one I've covered about the, desire to serve, proof of concept, and billable service, that's something that you can implement by itself. These are just additional tools to add to it. All right, any questions on what the concept we covered so far before I hand it off, throw the alley oop to my boy Vic? Appreciate the thumbs up, Damien.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Good stuff.
All right. Yes, sir. Well, go ahead, take it away.
Okay. So I am going to share my screen here when you get a moment. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So any questions on what Mr. Brandon has covered here? I mean, I'm pretty sure every single Hollywood square on this screen has gone through that. If you are have run your own business where, again, you're giving, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in this place where you're like, okay, when I'm gonna start taking, getting back for the value that I'm adding. So definitely implement these concepts, and I highly encourage you to, get some FaceTime with Brandon directly. I mean, he is definitely a wealth of knowledge as it pertains to running your business. So, all right. So I want to jump back into a few little things. So I want to be able to share some real estate investing resources with you all here. Just to, again, I want you to be able to walk away from these 3 days having a little bit more information about real estate investing. Obviously, it's hard to go out there and just be super dominant in the real estate investing business with just what we've shared these last few days. So obviously reach out if you have more guidance, but we've covered already at least 7 or 8 different ways that you can find money to finance your real estate investments. We've covered the types of real estate investments that you might want to look at, especially if you're just starting out, from single family to duplex, quadruplexes. We talked about some commercial properties that aren't always huge buildings. Sometimes it could be a parking lot. Sometimes it could be a storage space, or any type of commercial property. And definitely if it's on the living side, it's got to be 5 units or more to make it a commercial property. So get you a good real estate agent on your team. If you're in the Dallas area, my wife, Latasha Johnson, is with Keller Williams over in Plano. She's knocking them dead out here in Dallas, and she can help you out for sure. And she's also a relocation specialist. So for anybody out of state looking to come into this area, holla at us. So today I want to go into some real estate resources. One of the old school real estate investing slogans that I hear a lot of the old timers say when I'm at these networking and investment groups, they'll say, well, rental properties is all about tenants, toilets, and taxes. You hear them talking about tenants, toilets, and taxes. Well, I want to give you some resources that have helped me and my wife and our business over the last 5, now going on 6 years, with managing our properties. And again, most of our properties are what we call distant properties. So they're not in walking distance of our house. Most of the time, they're not even in 20 minutes radius of our home. So these are properties we're managing in other cities, other states even. And so we're able to manage these and still sleep at night without having to worry about the toilet calls and all those other things. So let me just share a few resources with you. Feel free to, again, to screenshot or whatever. So first thing I want to say is, when you're putting your resources together, you really got to look at this thing in the various phases of the project that you're going in. So obviously the first step will be finding the property. Well, the first step is making sure you have the money based on what your exit strategy is for that real estate investment. It's just like any other investment. Is this a long play or is this a short play? So based on what you're looking for, go ahead and secure your financing. And then once you figure that piece out, you got to find a deal that fits that financial situation and will still get you the kind of returns that you're looking for. So having access to off-market properties for sale is really critical as an investor. You're not going to always find, and most of the time, you're not going to find those deals on Zillow and Realtor.com and all these other sites where they're selling houses. Those are retail prices. And, it's almost like going into, I guess they still got Foot Locker for shoes. You're not going to walk into Foot Locker and buy shoes at a wholesale price. They're selling them at the retail price. Well, if you go to a retail home shopping site like a Zillow, they're not going to have the prices listed there for you to make money. It's there for, and in a lot of cases, they're outdated numbers. That house already got sold 3 weeks ago and they're still showing it as a listing. So you need to get access to somebody on your team that can find you deals. Wholesalers. I got wholesalers in 7 different states right now that email me every day. One day I'm gonna actually sit down and look at how many properties listings that get sent to me in a day. It's easily over 25 to 30 of them every day that I can look at and assess. And in a slide or two here, I'll show you kind of a napkin calculation you can do to kind of figure out, is it even worth exploring further? Because you can waste your entire day, week, and month trying to evaluate whether a deal is good for you or not. In the meantime, a savvy investor like me is going to scoop up right behind you and buy that property. So you need to have a system in place or a team in place that can get you properties that look good, having a good realtor that might have some pocket listings, and then the old school way of just driving for dollars, driving in neighborhoods that have, you know, a higher value property, but you want to find that nugget in the rough, that diamond in the rough that, you know, they got tarp on the roof, the bushes are overtaking the windows, they got, you know, cracked concrete and foundation in the driveway. You know, you can tell those houses that are not being taken care of, but somebody is there for sure. And there's probably a note attached to that house and they may be behind on it. And so they're not only do they have water leaking on the ceiling, but they also dealing with COVID or they're dealing with a loss of a job, and these people are ready to unload these houses. So keep that in mind. Also, again, understanding how to analyze your deals. There's an entire litany of things that you want to look at. We have been able to put together an analysis deal or a deal analysis form. I'm able to just plug in the comps, which are the comparable home prices in that area, the purchase price, which is what that PP is, what the rehab cost is, and again, understanding what is too much rehab versus what's not enough rehab and that sweet spot in between. You know, obviously, the more deals you do, the more comfortable you get with that evaluating. But again, reaching out to a mentor or having somebody that has done a few of these deals already is always a helpful thing in your favor. And one thing that a lot of people don't really think about are the closing costs. And, you know, I do a lot of notary closings in my spare time. I'm a notary as well. And so I see dozens of real estate closing documents every month. And so I'm seeing some of the closing costs of these transactions. Obviously, some people get less because they may have some discounts or they're military, but those closing costs can creep up on you. And when you're buying bigger than a single family home, those numbers get into the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in closing costs, and you hadn't factored that into your numbers, it could turn your deal upside down. The other thing I do want to say is, you know, with real estate investing, you do have to take the emotions out of it. You cannot look at that house as like your house that you're going to move into, or, well, my wife loves, she wants a movie theater in there. I need to make sure that the rental property has a movie theater room. You know, you need to be thinking about, again, your end user. You know, Brandon touched on very greatly yesterday that target market, and why I wanted to stop him while he was talking about that, because as a real estate investor, particularly a landlord investor, you need to understand the market that you're renting to. And in many cases, the most basic home, and again, safe and clean and functional, is way better than the apartment complex that they're coming from, or worse, the back room of their cousin's house that they've been staying in with their 6 kids in there. So sometimes you got to think about, you know, going to the mindset of your consumer and, of course, screen them properly. So goes into my next bullet, screening tools. One of the ones that I've used, and there are several out there, but turbotenant.com, that they do have a TransUnion background check, credit check provider. And what it will do is give you back an analysis with the report, and it even gives you their recommendations. Well, based on this information, I would approve the first tenant, but the co-applicant you might not want to approve, or in that situation, you may want to ask for an extra deposit or come up with your own process for how you're going to deal with that. Or sometimes you just got to be able to walk away from that, which is, again, removing the emotions from that situation and being able to say, you know what, I know this person has $3,000, $4,000 to come in and move in right now, but are they going to be a headache for me in 3 months, 6 months down the line? You need to do that proper screening, and it's very important that you have that. Additionally, the tenant management. That is probably the biggest one that people kind of forget about, especially when you get excited, you find a deal that's that meets your numbers, you're able to close on it, you start screening tenants, and then next thing you know, 2 weeks into the lease, somebody calling you, hey man, check this out. My son flushed a sock down the toilet. Y'all gonna come fix this toilet, man? What you gonna do? No, 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 no. You need to have good, clean lease agreements based on where your state is. And of course, you know, it definitely doesn't hurt to have an attorney on your team. But if you can't afford that at the time, which anybody could get Legal Shield or something like that. So I recommend those type of services. But rocketlawyer.com is one that I've been able to help out clients in other states. Because again, I specialize in Texas. So we have, again, my wife's a realtor, so we can come up with a Texas real estate contract, but I don't represent California and Ohio and Kansas City where some of these other transactions may be for my clients. So I can refer them to like a Rocket lawyer or again, to their attorney. So that's just something really important. I don't want to lightly talk over that because it's so important. Whatever business, you know, I'm talking about real estate investing, but whatever business you have, you need to make sure that you have legal representation, get your agreements in place, make sure that you deal with the ugly stuff up front. You got to deal with that stuff up front before you get into all the excitement, the marketing, the advertising, the revenue flying in. Then all of a sudden you have a situation that you didn't think about and there's no document that covers that. That's the stuff that we got to get out of doing. You know, other people will run their businesses a lot better. Their parents or families may have been business owners and they've been able to kind of guide them. But, you know, in our culture, sometimes we don't have that history. And so we're jumping in. I think you said it yesterday, Brandon. We're coming in with an employee mentality, but we're running a business. And those are not the same mentalities. And so make sure that you have somebody on your team. If you're not capable, because again, if you're great at making cookies and you are just great at cookie baking, why should you understand putting together agreements and partnerships and LLCs and things like that? Get the professional help that you want. So get the experts. And I put down here the link to our Teachable platform. We have put together some courses, and of course you can book me through on the coaching through there as well. So check that out when you get some time. Appreciate that, Brandon. Yes, sir. Powerful information. I appreciate it. Very good. Nicole, thank you. Correct. Learn that from you. Legal representation. That is important. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Them contracts is protection. Great plug. Great plug. So here we go. Let's look here. So I want to go over just a few minimum numbers, and no way am I able to go in depth with the analysis, but just some things to think about if you are looking at becoming a rental property investor. And so I put some very minimum numbers because again, if your calculations don't get to these minimums, that's not a deal you should be looking at. Move on, okay? Unless you inherited the property or something where you don't have to have the big upfront cost. But cash flow. So what is cash flow? Cash flow is the profit that you make on the rent collection every month. So we talked about net worth the other day. So if you're collecting, you know, $1,000 in rent and your note for that home is $750 a month, then the cash flow is $250. But here's where I see a lot of my colleague real estate investors make mistakes. They have not factored in their cost as a property manager, or maybe they're outsourcing the management of the property and they haven't factored that into their cash flow number. They're just looking at the principal, interest, taxes, and the insurance. But there are some other costs. Sometimes you do have to do a rehab on something, or sometimes it wasn't them flushing a sock down the toilet. You had bad pipes, something that you may have needed to address on the beginning end and you didn't. And so make sure when you're looking at the numbers that you're looking at all your total costs, the time factor that you spend, which once you get the house up and running, you should have very minimal time invested into a property. I mean, on average, I think I may spend 17 minutes a month managing my properties. And that is really to make sure that everything is set up properly with my cozy account so that the tenant's money is ACHing properly and things like that. Maybe I have to deal with a renewal every once in a while, every couple of years or something like that. But there's by and large minimal time that I now have to deal with once those properties are up and running until I'm ready to either sell it or turn the property over into another tenant. Cash on cash returns. So what is cash on cash return? We're talking about the actual dollars that you invested for that transaction. So in this example, let's say the person invested $24,000 to buy this property. Maybe it's a $150,000 house. You were able to get hard money to step in, or some other method of financing the rest of that deal. So your actual out-of-pocket amount was $24,000. So the way that you would do a cash on cash return is you want to look at the annual cash flow per month. So that's the $200 profit, that whatever that number is, multiply that by 12 months. So that's your $2,400 in profit. We're not talking about the actual rent amount. We're talking about, again, the overflow or the cash flow. Multiply that by the 12 months in the year, and then divide that number by the number that you invested. So to make the numbers easy, I just used the 24,000. So that is a 10% cash on cash return every year. Now, ideally, I'm looking for 12% or better. And in most cases, you're going to get 15% or better. But you do want to look at that when you're calculating your numbers. It's super important. We've seen, situations where investors get excited on the front end, but because they didn't properly calculate all of their expenses and their cash flow, so now this number is overinflated. They spent more than they really put down as what they invested, and they end up upside down in that deal. And it takes them longer to get the return on the investment. So it's a lot of these things that you don't think about when you're kind of new to the game. And I had to learn that the hard way. I was just fortunate that I got a super big win in my first transaction. The next thing is equity. And most of you that are homeowners understand this already. That's your property value minus the property's debt, or how much the loan is or the note is remaining on that home. So again, using a $100,000 value minus the loan amount of $75,000, then your equity there is the $25,000. The deals that we're looking for, they should never be more than 25% of what is the actual true value of the property. Again, looking at the comparables, what can I bring the value up for that home in? And I'm looking at that versus what the actual purchase price is of that home. These are important numbers to factor. If you bypass these numbers, you're more than likely going to be upside down in your transaction, and you find yourself in a bad space. So any questions on these two slides that I just shown here? Anything at all? And again, I'm available if anybody wants to go a little deeper. Maybe you have a house that you, again, may have inherited, or something that you're thinking about. You're moving, you're going to upgrade into another house, and you want to use the house that you're currently in as a rental property. You maybe want some guidance on that. Hey, get with me. I want to be able to help you get off to a good start with that transaction. And these are great times with these refinance numbers and these mortgage numbers so low. You can find yourself really coming up big if you do the numbers the correct way. So that's all I had on my slide. Brandon, what I wanted to do, sir, if you're okay with this, I wanted to go to some of our questions from the questionnaire and make sure that we have not left anybody hanging from their initial questions when they submitted. So since I'm already on the real estate topic, I'm going to just jump into the ones that are talking about real estate, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first question that I'm seeing here: how do I get started on my real estate properties, and how do I generate more revenue with my business? I gotta feel like we covered that over the course of these past 2 or 3 days, but how do you get started on the real estate investing property or in real estate investing? Obviously, you need to figure out what your financial situation is. What's your capacity? How much can you afford to put down on either a down payment or to buy a house out in cash? Or do you need to partner with some people? You got to do the hard numbers and really figure out, well, what do I have that I can invest? And can I go without that money for a year, 2 years while it's bubbling up and the equity is building up and all the principal pay down is happening and all that? So start there. That will be the first thing. And then use the things that we've talked about here, the types of properties that you want to look for, considering HOA fees and taxes and closing costs in your numbers. And then you should do very well with being able to get into that first transaction. Brandon, you talked about how to generate more revenue, but do you want to be more specific for this question at all?
Sure. Absolutely. So what's the actual,
So the actual question on here is, how do I generate more revenue with my business?
So most people, when they're thinking about generating more revenue, the automatic thought is, okay, well, I need to increase activity, raise my prices, or lower my expenses. Those are the three things that people typically think of. And I would say I agree. Now, the method by which you go about doing that, I think that's sometimes where the challenge comes in. So, for example, increase activity. Well, we got through talking about, I think yesterday, about defining your target market. If I have 1,000 arrows in my quiver, I don't know how I would carry that, but if let's say I had 1,000 arrows and I was just blasting away, just shooting arrows, that's increasing activity. But here's the problem: I don't have a clear target. So it's kind of a dilemma. I would never just tell a client, hey, let's increase your activity. No, we need to figure out where's the target. Because if I can be more effective with 5 arrows than you are with 1,000. So I'm more efficient. Guess what? I'm still generating more revenue. So to generate more revenue, I would say get more efficient. And that's where we connect the branding and all that good stuff. All right. So that's one aspect. Increase activity. Um, what was the next one?
You said reduce the expenses.
I'm trying to see. Yeah, I'm trying
Oh,
to
I
see if
got
anybody.
you. Yeah. You know, that's me, lean and mean, baby. I try to run them expenses low and generate revenue high.
Yeah. So let's deal with the second one. Increase prices. Well, guess what? Most people increase prices because they need to make more money or their own expenses have gone up. Well, unfortunately, I've got news for us. The market is not responsible for our expenses. They do not owe us additional revenue just because we need to cover additional expenses. That's not how it works. We have to have fair exchange. You give value in exchange for value.
Mhm.
And so there's a principle, even the one I wrote earlier. Can you offer double? If you want to increase revenue and get started and generate more money, you've got to understand what you offer is valuable and figure out how to offer more value. And over time, there's 3 phases that the market typically goes through. Um, and they begin to go from question, negotiate to accept. Again, I don't, that's actually a really good one. Real quick, I explain. Eventually they question it, meaning they doubt it. And that shows in the behavior pattern. You know, if you've ever sold something, attempted to sell something to somebody, and they say, you know, or no, you try to you go to the mall and go to buy a pair of pants. You look at the price tag; they look like the kind of pants you want. You said $100. I ain't paying no $100 for them pants, and you walk out. That's question. Negotiate is you go into the mall, look at the same pair of pants, like them, your size, your style. You look at the price, say, "Ooh, $100." And then you go to the manager and say, hey, you know what, man, I like these pants, but can you give them to me for, 75? Can you work with me? What's happening is the market has identified what you offer as valuable, but they don't want to pay that price. That's negotiate. Accept is when the person goes into the mall, same exact pair of pants, and they look at those pants, look at the price tag, go to the counter and pay for them. Guess what didn't happen? No friction. They saw the value and they accept it. That's a phase that you can go through in the marketplace when you're trying to increase your revenue. And anytime you increase your pricing or offer new products, it's gonna go through those 3 phases. It will stay in one of those phases depending on how quickly you can advance past it, and that's where we go into some things afterwards. And then reduce expenses. I personally, I don't prioritize it reducing expenses because if you're a vendor or a supplier for me, I don't want to take money out of your pocket. All right. Otherwise, I shouldn't have chosen you as a vendor. If I've got to look at you every year and say, hey, how can I take more money from you so I can increase my profits? That's a whole relationship thing that I get into on some strategic partnership stuff. Uh, this is the kind of conversation I have with my vendors. At the beginning of the year, I say, okay, what did we do last year? How can I bring in double the revenue for you this year? I guarantee you, most people are not having those kind of conversations with their vendors. But guess what? When I bring in more revenue, they win as well. So those are just some very high level talking points for how to increase your revenue. Again, reduce expenses, increase activity, or increase your pricing. All right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Any follow-up questions on that?
Did that make sense? I kind of sped through it.
Think so. Yep. Thank you. Y'all hang in there with us. We got a couple more minutes. I'm gonna throw out 2 more questions just from the questionnaire since there are quite a few on there, and I think we captured most. But how do you begin in real estate investing with no knowledge of the industry, money, or low credit score? You hire Victor Johnson. We'll get you straightened out, figure that out. Let's see. What is this one? Let's see. One for you, Brandon. Quite a few in here, but I think we covered a lot of this. So this was one question somebody put in here: best method or medium to use to get more eyeballs, I guess more eyeballs on their business, to attract more people to their company.
Yeah. So, that kind of connects back as well. So it's the same point. I would rather have 2 people that's in my target market looking at my website than 20,000 people that they're not in my target audience.
Right.
So I know what that question is asking, but it implies some other things that would need to be corrected first. And so I'm all about efficiency. Bottom line, I want to help generate more in less time, but being accurate. That's the better word. I want to be accurate. If you come into the doctor's office and you say you're hurting on your shoulder, I'm not going to stop there and say, all right, here's a prescription for arthritis. What? I mean, you're not going to look further into it. I'm going to say, okay, what shoulder? Is it here? Is it upper, lower? I want to get accurate. And so I would say with that, it really boils back down to your target audience, and you want their eyeballs. And when you figure out what that is important to them, then you can allocate more of your resources and time, because oftentimes people are they're spread wide with their budget and marketing when they really could cut back 30% and reallocate that in other areas that actually are working. But if you don't have those data points, you can't study that and know how to reallocate your energy. And so oftentimes when clients come to our company, it's a lot to swallow all this stuff all at once. So that's why we try to take some time to go through these things, because you're trying to run a business and you can't even do your lawn like this. You can't go outside to your lawn, for those that own homes, and just turn your water hose on for 30 minutes and say, all right, I've watered my grass for the month. No, you're going to kill your grass. Because you put too much at once. And so we get it. We want to do high power value in certain areas, but we do understand that I don't expect everyone to just run off into the sunset with what we given. We do expect you to, to appreciate it and feel like it is valuable, but we get it. There's so much more that we can do.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Oh yeah, that's my guy Frank. He's just sharing the links with you guys, and anybody wants to get the replay again, 3 days of this information. Maybe there's somebody in your network, on your team, that you want to hear these concepts or this information. Feel free to get that $29. We'll have the recordings all done today and shoot that out by tomorrow morning at the latest, for sure. So I guess at this time we just want to see if there's any other questions. I really want to kind of ask a few people that's still remaining in here, if they have any specific things that, maybe in 60 seconds or 2 minutes, we can kind of answer for you about your business, about real estate. Anybody have anything else they want to throw out there for a very specific situation that they may have? Anything at all? Don't be scared. This is a real private group right here.
I have one for you.
Yes, sir, Porter.
Once you've identified your target market, do you, as a company, do you help to communicate with the target market?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a process of saying, okay, I've identified my target market. Now I need to speak clearly and fluently to them. And when I say speak, that's when you utilize your marketing collateral. So most people, when you get business cards and flyers done, we don't realize that those are actually communication channels to the target audience. And so here's a very rip the band-aid off point that I need to make. There are so many businesses that are in existence today that have beautiful flyers, great business cards, website, but they don't have a clearly defined target audience. That's backwards, because the question is, who are you talking to? So what I often do is, even if you created all that stuff, we figure out who we need to talk to, who's the target audience, and then we optimize. We look back at everything you've created. We're not saying, hey, take all that stuff, throw it in the trash. That's not what we're saying. But we want to give you the power to understand going forward. Don't just create stuff that looks cute to you. We need to make sure it actually is going to get the attention. So to answer your question, yes, once you define your target audience, you got the power. There's another point that I will make. What we end up teaching our clients, regardless of the industry, is we teach you something called studying your industry's top 10 pain points. That's where your target audience is hurting. Those are what's called underserved needs. Every industry has them. And so then you couple that with your marketing. Now every time you speak, when I say speak, communicate through the marketing, it's going to communicate fluently, and then you need to have the infrastructure set up to service them in an organized fashion. So hopefully that answered that question.
That's good. That's good stuff. So no, this has been a ton of fun. What's going to happen next is, like I said, we're available for anybody that wants to reach out to us as a laser session combined group or individually for any particular needs. We also want to share with you all something else that we have going on. We are business partners officially. Like Brandon and I have another company with some other good brothers. Some of you are familiar with this, but I'm going to just quickly share the screen just so you're familiar with this, because somebody might be interested in getting access to some of this more detailed marketing information. We've got some other branding guys on the team. But yeah, look at these guys. They make me look crazy, but I look like an old man up there with these young fellas. But yeah, this is Own Your Business Mastery. The site is Own Your Mastery. And we've put together 1,000 or more hours worth of content, something similar to this, but also in other areas for entrepreneurship, to help people with real estate, to help people with budgeting, credit, building business credit, all those things. And it's a little easier blow rather than paying for, one-time session or a 6-month program. Maybe you just want to get monthly information from us. We're constantly re-uploading that stuff in there. But check out the website. It might be something you're interested in, onyourmastery.com. And it's been a pleasure. About a year ago, Brandon reached out to, some entrepreneurs and asked us to jump in. And, we're starting to see where we can really add value to some people now. So I'm really excited about this one. But that's pretty much everything, man. Any final thoughts, Brandon, on your end?
Well, I would say if you've enjoyed these 3 days, we want to say we appreciate you for investing your time. We are honored for the privilege, but I've got news for you. We're concluding this 3-day session, but we've got a whole calendar planned for the whole year. Yeah, we're gonna be doing more of these. Not just on this particular topic, but I'm gonna just give you an idea of some of the other topics that we're gonna do 3-day private training sessions. So we're gonna be covering LinkedIn. LinkedIn is something that's a hidden gem and secret that most people don't realize, that it's a great revenue generating opportunity and for networking. Funnel development, how to build funnels, strategic partnerships, book development. I've written 5 books. Vic Victor is an author as well. If you've been thinking about writing a book, we're going to cover private training on that. Sales and operation, where we can get into the nuts and bolts of administrative processes and merchant accounts and all that good stuff. Networking like a pro, public speaking, multiple streams of income, and starting joint ventures. That's just 9 some of the topics that we're playing with. And when we do these, we're probably going to do them in pairs, meaning we'll take 2 subjects at a time. So when do we plan on doing these? Probably every other month. So the next one we're planning, Vic, is, I believe we're talking about it in March.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll make sure to send it out. We want to make sure that if you enjoyed these, we have more of those to come. So we appreciate it.
And so I have one favor for folks out there, especially those of y'all that be playing around on social media. Give us some love. If you enjoy what you heard these last 3 days, there's nothing better than when there's social proof, when other people can say, you know what, I got some value out of this. I just have to say I'm extremely humbled by the names on the screen, because y'all hung in there all 3 days. We had a couple others that were in here and they dropped out, but it really, really means the world to us that you decided to invest some time with us during your evening time. It does mean a lot to us. And just, if you got, 3 or 4 words of positive encouragement that you want to throw out there on social media about what we've been able to provide these last few days, it definitely helps us as far as being able to work with other clients and things like that. So that means a lot. And please reach out if you have other needs. And, we didn't really do a lot of it like we planned to, but feel free to drop your contact information in here now in the chat. There are other people in here that you can do business with, or that you might want to, talk about and share some thoughts and ideas with. I'm all for that type of thing. We got to grow our network and continue to build. I didn't get a chance to double back around to Nicole again, but she's a huge resource as far as, the minority certification. We've got to, if you are a minority, a woman-owned business, any of the minority categories and labels, you should be looking at trying to jump in. If you don't mind, Nicole, drop your contact information in there. I don't want to keep everybody in, but please drop your contact info. Greatly.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to interject because the information was so dynamic and great. So I'll put my information in the chat if anyone wants to connect. Thanks.
Please, thank you. I know Raquel definitely could benefit. Y'all help each other in some ways too. Porter, please drop your info again, brother. Alexis, any one of your business entities you want to share with us, I see you dropping them in there. Yes, please do. And also, I just want to give again another public thank you to Frank Mendoza, my assistant. Thank you, sir. You're always spot on. He'll be sending out the communication to everybody, just kind of a recap thank you email. We'll get that out to you guys with other ways that you can reach out to us for any level of support that you feel like we can offer to you. Hey man, I'm out of words, brother. Brandon, you want to shut it down for us?
Yeah, I think that serves up the event. This 3 days have been incredible. Thank you guys again. I see as the contact information is coming through, the consultant in me, I always like to give homework. I want to encourage and challenge you guys, the people that have attended. If you're grabbing their contact information, I want to challenge you over the next 30 days, have some kind of virtual meeting with at least 2 people that have attended. Regardless of if they can do business with you or not. You don't know at this point, it doesn't matter. Connect, network, build relationships. My philosophy is anybody I come in contact in a professional context, I like to think, what can I do to build a relationship and add value to them over the next 5 years? That's my philosophy. Regardless of if they become a client or not, it really alters the way you think about things, how you interact with people, how you cherish people. And so that's my challenge to you guys is find 2 people from this experience and get on their calendar. Don't get in the meeting and then bum rush them with selling. That's not what it's about. But just learn who each other are, what your goals is, how you can support each other and build.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Thank you all so very much for your time for 3 days straight. We greatly appreciate it. Look out for more communication on the Dominate Today series we bring in for 2021. And again, We probably have some other, guests and topics that we'll be bringing in over through the course of the year. But we really appreciate you guys so much. And go dominate today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Dominate today. Do something right now that's going to help you get to those affirmations that you wrote down last night for who you're going to become by this time, January 2022. We appreciate you. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And y'all be safe out there.